The station hung on the edge of the galaxy like a lonely sentinel. Its metal walls were battered by years of cosmic storms, and its corridors were empty except for the hum of machinery. Inside, Kale lived alone. For 18 years, he had not spoken to anyone except the automated systems that maintained the station. He had not touched another living being, not out of fear, but because humanity had become a rare species, isolated and cautious. Kale spent his days maintaining the life support systems, calibrating the energy shields, and monitoring the small asteroid mines that gave the station a fragile supply of power. He had accepted solitude as normal. The galaxy had forgotten humans. To most alien civilizations, they were relics, fragile and inconsequential. But Kale knew better. Humans survived where no one else could, adapted in ways even advanced species did not understand. He had lived alone and survived because that was what humans did. One day, an unexpected signal pierced the station's usual quiet. The communication panel blinked with urgency. Kale stared at it. The code was alien, unlike any he had seen before, precise and formal. His fingers hovered over the console as he decoded the message. "Human Kale," the voice said, clear and synthetic. "Your presence is requested. Our species requires assistance. Your cooperation is essential. Delay is unacceptable." Kale frowned. It had been years since any other species had communicated with him directly. Most messages were generic trade offers or warnings. This one carried desperation and something else, respect. The voice continued. "We require your biological resources. Your cooperation will prevent extinction of our people." Kale blinked. His first thought was disbelief. Humans were fragile. Aliens did not usually value them, let alone their biology. But the message was precise, undeniable. It was not a threat. It was a request, urgent and formal. And it spoke of a resource that only humans could provide. Kale spent the next hours preparing. The alien species requested that he meet them on a nearby research vessel. They would arrive in orbit around a dying star in the next solar cycle. Kale knew that traveling outside the station after 18 years would be challenging. His body had grown accustomed to solitude. He had survived with little interaction, relying only on his mind, his endurance, and his careful planning. And yet he felt a spark of curiosity, something long dormant. When the vessel arrived, it was unlike anything Kale had ever seen. It shimmered with energy fields that bent light around its hull. Its shape was fluid, almost organic, with surfaces that shifted subtly as if alive. The docking clamps engaged, and Kale walked down the corridor to meet the aliens. Inside, the atmosphere was cool and antiseptic but calm. The aliens were humanoid in form, but their features were delicate and elongated. Their eyes were large, reflecting light in colors Kale had never known. One stepped forward. "You are Kale?" the alien asked. Its voice was melodic, almost musical. "I am," Kale replied. "You are aware of our request. I've read the message, but I don't understand why me." The alien hesitated, then explained. Their species faced a crisis. A deadly virus had spread through their population, and their science could not replicate a cure. Only a human's unique biological makeup produced a rare compound that could neutralize the virus. It was not a chemical they could synthesize, not a trait they could mimic. It existed only in humans. Kale listened. The idea was strange, almost unbelievable, yet he felt the truth in it. Humans had always survived in ways that surprised other species. Even now, alone for 18 years, his body was resilient. His isolation had made him an anomaly, able to endure conditions that others could not. "You will be helping save millions of lives," the alien said. "Your cooperation is voluntary, but time is critical. The first extraction must occur within your cycle." Kale nodded slowly. "I need to understand the process. I need to know what it involves." The alien explained. The process was called extraction, a method of drawing the rare compound from human physiology without causing permanent harm. It required patience, precision, and a calm mind. The human's cooperation was essential, but it was safe. After the procedure, Kale would be restored fully. Kale considered this. He had spent nearly 2 decades alone. He had survived without comfort, without touch, without companionship. And now the galaxy called on him for something important. The decision was simple. Humans survived and adapted because they chose to endure. "I will help," he said. The aliens nodded. There was a subtle relief in their posture, a rare human-like display of gratitude. Kale was led to a chamber that was sterile, quiet, and calm. Machines surrounded him, designed to monitor every vital sign. He reclined in the chair, feeling the hum of energy around him. As the process began, Kale focused on breathing, on calm, on control. The extraction was gentle, almost imperceptible at first. Sensors monitored the flow of the compound, and the aliens adjusted the equipment carefully. Kale marveled at the precision, at the way science could operate with such delicacy. Hours passed. He felt fatigue, yes, but also a sense of purpose. He was contributing to something larger than himself, something vital. For the first time in 18 years, Kale felt truly connected, not to another human, not to the station, but to life itself. During the extraction, the aliens observed him with curiosity. They noted his endurance, his patience, and his ability to remain calm under strain. No other species had demonstrated such resilience. The human body, they realized, was more than fragile flesh. It was a marvel of adaptation, capable of sustaining itself through extremes of isolation and stress. When the procedure ended, Kale felt light, almost energized despite the fatigue. The aliens thanked him formally, but Kale saw something more: respect, awe, and even reverence. He had been isolated, forgotten, dismissed, but in this moment his species mattered. The aliens explained that the compound he provided would save millions. Entire colonies would recover. His contribution was small in action, but immense in consequence. Kale realized that humans, even alone, even underestimated, could change the course of the galaxy. For the first time, Kale allowed himself to imagine companionship again. Not for pleasure, not for comfort, but for connection. Humans survived because they endured. They thrived because they persisted. And now, he was reminded that persistence had value beyond survival. It had the power to save. As he left the chamber, the aliens escorted him to a window overlooking the star. The dying light of the sun cast long shadows, and Kale felt the weight of solitude lift slightly. He had acted alone, yet his actions touched countless lives. That was the power of being human. That was the quiet strength of a species the galaxy had nearly forgotten. Kale returned to his station, tired but fulfilled. His days of solitude would continue, but they were no longer meaningless. He had faced the galaxy and found that his endurance, his resilience, and his quiet humanity were more valuable than he had ever imagined. Somewhere far across the stars, the lives he had helped were thriving. The galaxy might not notice humans often, but Kale knew the truth. Humans endured, humans adapted, humans survived. And when the time came, humans could stand where no other species could and make a difference that no one else could achieve. He looked out at the dark expanse of space and smiled. The stars had always been distant, untouchable. But now they felt a little closer, a little warmer. Humans had returned to the galaxy, not with weapons, not with conquest, but with the quiet power of their resilience. And Kale, alone for 18 years, had reminded the cosmos why humanity mattered. The station hummed quietly around him. Kale walked through the empty corridors, knowing that tomorrow he would maintain the same machinery, face the same solitude, and yet feel a new purpose. He had not touched another being in 18 years, but he had reached across the galaxy in the only way that mattered. He had saved life. And in doing so, he had proven once more that humans were extraordinary. After the first extraction, Kale returned to his routine, but the quiet of the station felt different. It was no longer just silence, it carried weight. He had touched life in a way that mattered. The alien vessel had left, but their message lingered. More extractions would be needed, more lives depended on him. Kale had never sought recognition, yet the galaxy had already marked him as important. Days passed. The hum of machinery in the station became a steady companion. Kale moved through corridors, checked systems, and monitored asteroid miners. The solitude was familiar, but now it reminded him that his strength, his human endurance, was exceptional. Alien scientists had observed him, recorded his responses, and noted his calm focus under pressure. No species they knew could withstand such isolation for 18 years without collapsing mentally or physically. Humans, they concluded, were uniquely resilient. A second message arrived, carried by a faster vessel this time. The aliens explained that their situation had worsened. The virus was mutating, spreading faster than expected, and their colonies were at risk. Kale's contribution had saved thousands, but millions remained in danger. The extraction process would need to continue. Kale studied the message carefully. He could refuse, of course. No one could force him, but he understood the stakes. The galaxy was counting on him, not for conquest or power, but for life itself. He had survived 18 years alone. He could endure this too. When the vessel arrived, Kale was ready. The alien scientists greeted him, more formally this time, as if they had gained confidence in his abilities. They led him to a larger chamber, filled with more advanced equipment. Sensors floated around, tracking his vitals, the ambient energy, and the flow of the compound they sought. The procedure began with careful calibration. Kale felt the familiar hum of the machines as they engaged with his body. The first extraction had been straightforward, but this one was different. The aliens explained that the virus had altered their physiology in unpredictable ways. The process would be longer and more delicate. Kale braced himself. Hours passed. He remained calm, controlling his breathing, focusing his mind. The alien scientists observed closely, taking notes. They marveled at how his body responded to the extraction. Fatigue appeared, but it was mild. Stress indicators remained low. Kale's endurance, they realized, was unmatched. Humans could adapt to isolation, to strain, and to challenges that would break other species. As the procedure continued, Kale began to notice something strange. The machines detected subtle shifts in his compound production. Under stress, his body produced more. His long years of solitude had made him capable of sustaining extreme focus. The aliens had assumed they were helping him endure, but Kale was naturally suited for this. He realized that what had once been a burden, his isolation, was now an asset. During brief pauses in the extraction, Kale spoke with the aliens. They were curious about his life, his habits, his thoughts. It was the first time he had conversed with another being in nearly 2 decades. Their questions were scientific, but Kale answered honestly. He spoke of routines, survival, and observation. He spoke of patience and endurance. The aliens listened, fascinated. "You are extraordinary," one said. "No species we know can endure so long without interaction and remain mentally stable." Kale shrugged. "I survived, that is all." "No," the alien replied. "It is more than survival, it is adaptation. You endure, you persist, you contribute. Your species is remarkable." Kale did not know how to respond. He had never thought of humans in such terms. To him, survival had always been ordinary, natural. Yet he realized that the galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. Aliens measured strength differently, often through violence, conquest, or technology. But humans had survived the impossible through quiet resilience, through endurance, through intelligence, and through choice. The extraction continued for days. Each cycle tested Kale in new ways. Fatigue accumulated, yet he persisted. Machines monitored his recovery between sessions, ensuring he did not collapse. The aliens, too, began to notice that his recovery rate was unlike anything they had ever seen. Humans healed quickly, endured stress naturally, and maintained mental clarity under conditions that would break other species. Kale's body was a marvel, and it was entirely untrained by them. As the process reached its midpoint, a crisis emerged. A nearby solar flare hit the station's outer shields. Energy surged unpredictably. Warning alarms blared. Kale's heart rate spiked, but he remained focused. The alien scientists panicked at first, unsure how to stabilize the equipment. Kale acted. Years of solitude had taught him to trust logic and observation above panic. He adjusted the controls manually, rerouted power, and restored stability. The aliens watched in awe. Humans, they realized, were not just resilient, they were adaptable. They could react to unforeseen dangers with calm intelligence. While machines and calculations failed under stress, Kale thrived. He saved the process, the station, and the extraction itself. After the flare, the atmosphere in the chamber shifted. The aliens treated Kale with new respect. They had come seeking a biological resource, expecting only compliance. Instead, they found a being capable of judgment, courage, and action under pressure. They began to understand why humans, though small in number and underestimated, could survive and influence the galaxy in ways no other species could. Kale, meanwhile, reflected on his own experience. For years, he had lived with the galaxy as a distant observer, alone and unnoticed. Now, he realized that isolation had given him a strength that no alien technology could replicate. He had endured because he chose to endure, and in doing so, he had become indispensable. Humans were not only survivors, they were quietly extraordinary. As the final extraction cycle approached, Kale faced his greatest challenge. The virus had mutated again. The process would require him to maintain focus for nearly double the usual time. Fatigue was inevitable and the mental strain immense. Kale had no choice but to prepare. He rested, meditated, and monitored his own body. When the extraction began, Kale felt the familiar hum of the machines. Hours turned into a full day. His body ached, but his mind remained sharp. The alien scientists watched with increasing amazement. No species had ever sustained such focus under pressure. Kale's endurance was more than physical. It was mental, emotional, and willful. Midway through the procedure, a new complication arose. The virus had evolved to interfere with the alien monitoring systems. Alerts flashed, and the machines struggled to regulate the extraction flow. Kale noticed the subtle patterns in the fluctuations. Without hesitation, he adjusted his posture, controlled his breathing, and allowed his body to maintain a stable output. The aliens observed silently, realizing that the human was not just a source of a rare compound. He was actively solving the problems that technology alone could not handle. By the time the extraction concluded, Kale was exhausted but triumphant. The alien species had received enough of the compound to begin reversing the spread of the virus. Colonies that were on the brink of collapse now had hope. Kale had not only contributed a resource, he had saved lives. The alien leader approached him afterward. "You have done more than we imagined. Your endurance, your focus, your intelligence, it is unparalleled. Your species is extraordinary. We had underestimated humans." Kale simply nodded. He had acted because it was necessary, not because he sought praise. Yet he felt a quiet satisfaction. He had survived 18 years alone, endured extreme isolation, and now, in this moment, humanity mattered. His species had quietly influenced the fate of millions, and no one could take that away. After the vessel departed, Kale returned to his station. The corridors were quiet again, but they no longer felt empty. He had seen the galaxy's needs, faced its challenges, and proven that humans were not to be underestimated. The The solitude that had once been a burden now felt like a shield, a preparation that allowed him to do what no one else could. Kale knew the work was not over. The virus was persistent, the galaxy vast, and the aliens would return for further help. But for the first time, he felt a sense of purpose that extended beyond survival. Humanity had a place in the galaxy, not through force, but through resilience, intelligence, and quiet determination. And Kale, alone for so many years, was at the center of that recognition. As he looked out at the stars from his station, he understood something profound. Humans had survived because they endured. They had thrived because they adapted. And when the galaxy called, they could act in ways no other species could. His body had produced a rare compound, yes, but his mind, his patience, his courage, and his endurance were equally rare. Kale smiled to himself. The galaxy had underestimated humans, but they had now been reminded. One day, more humans would rise, more humans would act, and the universe would learn the quiet power of a species that endured against all odds. For Kale, that knowledge was enough. He had proven the strength of humanity. He had proven that being human was extraordinary. And he would continue to prove it, one challenge at a time. Kale stood at the edge of his station, looking out at the stars. The galaxy felt alive now, not as distant points of light, but as places where his actions had meaning. The alien vessel had departed after the second extraction, but the message remained clear. The work was not finished. The virus still threatened millions, and Kale's body held the key to saving them. Unlike the first extraction, this time Kale understood the magnitude of what he had become, a symbol of humanity's endurance and resilience. The next message arrived faster than before. It was urgent, almost desperate. Several colonies had begun showing new signs of infection. The alien scientists requested Kale's immediate assistance. This time, Kale did not hesitate. He had survived alone for 18 years. He had endured fatigue, isolation, and extreme pressure. He could endure this too. He was human, and humans thrived in situations that others could not. When the vessel arrived, Kale was ready. The chamber had been upgraded, more advanced than before. Machines floated and shifted with precision, tracking his vitals, controlling extraction flows, and monitoring energy levels. Kale sat in the chair, his mind calm, his body steady. He had faced this before, but the stakes were higher now. Millions of lives depended on him, and he felt no fear. Fear was for those who did not endure. Humans endured, and he had proven it time and again. The extraction began. It was more complex than the previous cycles. The virus had evolved, forcing the aliens to adjust the process in real time. Kale felt the subtle pressure on his body as the machines drew the rare compound. He focused on his breathing, on remaining calm, on controlling every sensation. Hours passed and fatigue set in, but he refused to falter. The aliens watched closely. They had never seen anything like this. Kale's endurance was extraordinary. Even under extreme strain, he remained steady. His body produced the compound at optimal levels. Machines that had once struggled under stress now performed flawlessly because Kale's body adapted naturally. His resilience was not taught. It was human instinct, honed by centuries of survival in environments that would destroy other species. During a brief pause, the alien leader approached. "Kale," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "You have done more than provide a resource. You have shown us the true power of your species. We underestimated humans. We no longer do. You are extraordinary." Kale nodded. He did not seek praise, but he understood their respect. For centuries, humans had been dismissed as fragile, weak, and irrelevant. Yet here he was, alone for years, now influencing the survival of an entire alien population. It was not strength measured by violence or technology. It was strength measured by endurance, intelligence, and willpower. The process continued, and the alien scientists faced a new challenge. A solar storm surged through the region, sending unpredictable energy waves across the vessel. Machines flickered. Warning signals blared. Kale remained calm. Years of isolation had taught him to rely on observation and logic over panic. He adjusted the equipment manually, rerouted power, and stabilized the extraction. The aliens stared in awe. No species they knew could remain composed and effective under such conditions. Humans had survived because they adapted, because they endured. Kale was proof. He had saved the extraction, ensured the compound flowed correctly, and protected the vessel itself. It was a quiet, unassuming heroism, but it was unmatched. As the hours turned into a full day, Kale faced the final phase of the extraction. The virus had reached its most dangerous stage. The alien scientists explained that this cycle would require every ounce of his focus, every measure of his endurance. Kale understood. He closed his eyes for a moment, centering himself. He would endure because humans endured. He would persist because humans persisted. The extraction resumed. Machines monitored his vitals, recording data, adjusting flows, and maintaining precision. Kale's body ached, but his mind remained clear. His endurance, his ability to focus under extreme conditions, allowed him to maintain optimal output. The aliens watched silently, captivated by his strength. It was not just physical, it was mental, emotional, and instinctual. Midway through the process, an unexpected complication arose. The virus had adapted to the extraction method, causing fluctuations in the compound levels. Machines struggled to compensate. Kale noticed the patterns instinctively. Without hesitation, he adjusted his breathing, his posture, and his mental focus. Slowly, the compound levels stabilized. The aliens realized that Kale was not just a resource, he was a participant, actively ensuring success. Humans were not passive. They could solve problems, adapt, and innovate even under extreme stress. As the extraction neared completion, Kale felt exhaustion creeping in. His body was tired, his muscles ached, and his mind struggled to maintain focus. But he did not stop. Humans survived because they endured. They thrived because they persisted. Kale's endurance was the culmination of centuries of human survival instincts, honed by necessity, by adaptation, and by choice. Finally, the extraction concluded. The aliens had received enough of the compound to begin curing the infected colonies. The virus would be neutralized, millions of lives saved. Kale had contributed more than a resource. He had provided hope. The alien scientists approached, their expressions filled with gratitude and awe. "You have done what no other species could," the alien leader said. "You have saved countless lives. Humanity is remarkable. Your endurance, your intelligence, your resilience, it is unmatched." Kale simply nodded. He had done what was necessary. Praise was irrelevant. Survival, endurance, and contribution were human traits, and he had proven them once again. After the vessel departed, Kale returned to his station. The corridors were quiet but no longer empty. They carried the memory of action, of purpose, and of impact. For the first time in 18 years, Kale felt truly connected to the galaxy. Not through companionship, not through conversation, but through the knowledge that his actions had meaning beyond himself. Humans had influenced life across the stars, not with weapons, not with conquest, but with quiet resilience. Days turned into weeks. Kale monitored the recovery of the alien colonies through distant communications. Reports arrived, populations stabilized, resources replenished, and hope restored. The galaxy had seen what humans could endure, and it had taken notice. Kale realized that the species he had once thought insignificant was quietly extraordinary. Humans survived against impossible odds, endured isolation and pressure, and persisted where others failed. One day, Kale received a personal message from the alien leader. She requested a final meeting, not for extraction, but for recognition. When Kale arrived on the vessel, he found the alien council waiting. They expressed gratitude formally, acknowledging the courage, endurance, and intelligence he had demonstrated. They promised to share the story of humans' resilience across the galaxy, ensuring that no species would underestimate humanity again. Kale understood the significance. Humans had survived without notice for centuries. They had endured hardship, isolation, and challenges beyond measure. And now, the galaxy had learned that humans were more than fragile beings. They were adaptable, resilient, and capable of quiet heroism. Returning to his station, Kale walked through the corridors with a new sense of purpose. He had endured 18 years alone. He had contributed to saving millions. He had proven the quiet power of humanity. Solitude no longer felt like a burden. It was preparation, a foundation that had allowed him to achieve what no one else could. Kale looked out at the stars, feeling a profound connection to life beyond his station. Humans had been underestimated for too long. Their strength was not in dominance, not in aggression, but in endurance, intelligence, and the ability to persevere. Kale had lived alone, survived against all odds, and contributed to the survival of an entire species. That was humanity's power. That was HFY in its purest form. As the days continued, Kale maintained his station, watched over the stars, and reflected on the journey. The galaxy had changed in subtle ways. Aliens who had once dismissed humans now respected them. Scientists studied human endurance, leaders consulted human strategies, and the story of Kale's actions spread quietly through the colonies. One human, alone for 18 years, had reminded the universe of the extraordinary resilience of his species. Kale smiled as he monitored a distant colony's recovery. Life thrived again. The stars seemed brighter, more alive, as if acknowledging the effort it had taken to preserve them. The galaxy had been saved not by war or technology, but by quiet endurance, intelligence, and the choice to act in the face of challenge. Humanity had made its mark, and Kale had been at the center of that story. For Kale, solitude remained, but it was no longer empty. It was a space for reflection, for strength, and for preparation. Humans would continue to endure, adapt, and rise to challenges the galaxy could not anticipate. And he, a single human who had lived alone for 18 years, had proven the value of his species to the universe. He looked out one last time before returning to his work. The stars stretched endlessly, full of life and potential. Humanity had endured. Humanity had thrived. And in the quiet strength of one human, the galaxy had learned to respect the species that had always survived against the odds. Kale returned to his station's core systems, maintaining life support and monitoring asteroid mines. The quiet hum of the station no longer felt empty. It was alive with purpose. He had endured, he had contributed, and he had proven that humans, though often underestimated, were extraordinary. The galaxy had learned that humans could act where no other species could, survive where others would fail, and endure where all seemed lost. And Kale, alone for 18 years, had become proof of that truth.